Alrighty, guys. You guys clicked on, you want to know who is the ancestor of the dragonborn that gives you the gift of the dragon blood? Or more importantly, why do you have the dragon blood? Why is your character so unique? Well, I'm going to cover that. So first, hit that like, hit that comment, hit that subscribe. Tell me that I'm a dumbass. Hell yeah, here we go. So, when it comes to the whole dragon blood thing, we know a few things about it. First, we know that it's actually a blessing from Akatosh onto the mortals. This would be the elves, the humans, Khajiits, and Argonians. They are allowed to be dragon-blooded. Fun fact, Mankar Cameron was actually a dragonborn. So, when you play Oblivion and you kill him, just know he was actually a dragon blood as well. That's the reason why he was able to use the Amulet of Kings, which again I just find really fascinating. So when it comes down to it, could the Dragonborn just be this descendant from just a random line of people who forgot their own history? Possibly. Now you may be wondering, how could that happen? How could someone forget their lineage and not know their history of being these ancient dragon slayers, these people who lived very great lives in ancient times? They were very well sought after by the Akavir. So why exactly would your heritage be forgotten? Well, there's a few histories on that. The main one is mostly during the Second Era. The Second Era was a terrible, terrible time, and we don't have much historical records on it. And the reason why is because the entire continent of Tamriel was wrapped in war, civil and otherwise. There was war everywhere. The Riemann Empire was fallen. The Imperial City exchanged hands between humans and non-humans over and over and over again. It was a constant war with no unification until the very, very end, around the 800 year where Talos was born and he created the whole Septim dynasty. Him being a Dragonborn had really little to do with most of his capabilities. After all, there wasn't really much in his record about him slaying dragons and using the shout as much as many Nords would claim. So a lot of the theories behind dragon blood and why you would forget your family history is probably from that. It could have been things like that, where every uncle and aunt that your family had was just slaughtered from war, being called into battle as knights, and then finally, after so many of you are lost, there may have been times where a knight does not come home. A warrior who is stranded in the middle of the battlefield, bleeding to death, never able to tell his son and daughter the importance of their blood, their history. And now you just got a bunch of kids on the street as orphans, which would later lead on to be the Dragonborn, which is you in Skyrim. That's one way. That is one way that could have happened. And I'm being very serious. It's very sad, but that's more than likely what would be the case. Now, for me, personally, this is my own little theory. So, strap your butts in. This is going to be fun. So, there is an emperor. And I'm not joking. I wish I was, but it is so funny. There is an emperor who existed, part of the Septim dynasty. He was the 7th emperor in the empire. And what he did was he went around and basically banged everybody's mom. I am not joking. He went onto the world stage as the emperor, tapped on the mic, and said, "Attention, attention everybody. Please, I need your attention now. I fucked your mom." And then he went into explicit details about every individual person's mom and their bedchambers. He was very serious. Now you may be wondering, who is this Chad? Who is this guy who's just going around fucking women left and right? Well, this would be Antiochus Septim. Antiochus Septim was a very flamboyant individual. From the age of 18 to 17, he was already promiscuous with the women. He had many concubines, actual concubines, and wives. Dude was always with a different woman. Basically, there was a very long, legitimate track of who was his wife, at what point and at what time. but there's very little legal tracks as to what women he has been with. After all, he could have taken a rough and tumble with some random Nord woman in the back of a bar. No one would know. And this is basically Antiochus Septim. Now, Antiochus Septim, a little history for you guys. He was an emperor who was crowned when he was 48 years old, because that's when his predecessor died. Well, once he was crowned, he died around the age of 68. So he's only been around for maybe 20 years. But in that 20 years, he did pretty bad. Really bad. Because a lot of people were declaring civil war. Some people, it was because, hey, he banged some of their women, and that's not a good thing for a leader. But the main and most important thing that Antiochus is known for is barely winning and barely holding on to Somerset Isles, the area of Alinor. Because you see what happened was the High Elves, the Altmer, were under attack by the Malmer, the Sea Elves, and their king, Organ. And he was about to take over. Of course, Antiochus Septim, being the man he is, he wasn't really much of a war leader, and the kings of Somerset Isle were not much of war leaders either. Thankfully, there's been a massive storm, a massive hurricane that just ripped apart the Malmer. Some theorize the Sigic Order was involved in this, but honestly, it doesn't really matter, because in the end, Antiochus, well, he wasn't really much of a king, and he really deserved it if he did go down in history as the worst emperor ever, because all he did was just shag women, and then had very bad political blowback. So you may be thinking, how's this tie into the Dragonborn? Well, as I said, there's very little legal records on who his wives would be, and then who his concubines, and who are the random women that he just picked up and banged. Chances are, when Antiochus went on the world stage and announced to the world, hey everybody, I fucked your mom, he's talking about you. He's talking about you, big boy. He's talking about your Dragonborn there. So at some point, in some time, your great-great-great-grandma was really good at swinging that neck and sucking that dick, because she got some emperor, balls up down her throat. So in that case, the Dragonborn, I guess, is very, very lucky. He's very, very lucky. He can shed a tear and go, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Grandma, for sucking all them dicks, and just thankfully you got the dragon blood in that womb somehow. I don't know how, but you got really lucky. Thank you, Grandma. So, next time you guys go to your nursing home, you can always think, I wonder what kind of ball slapping action got in here, Now, the final theory when it comes to why it is you're the Dragonborn and how you got your gift is not exactly anything to do with genetics. In fact, even the Greybeards even kind of hint at it, that being a dragon blood is not actually a lineage thing. It's not a heritage. It's actually a blessing from Akatosh. Akatosh himself dropping his own blessing down on you, saying, boom, you're the Dragonborn. This, more or less, kind of makes sense, because if you really think about the logistics of it, if there was, let's say 30 human tribes, and each human tribe had 2 Dragonborn in them, the Dragonborn people would probably have a lot of kids. And that's one, because it's a medieval setting, and that's usually what happens in medieval settings. But 2, if every person was having multiple kids, you're going to have a lot of dragon blood all over the place very, very fast. So it kind of makes sense when we look at ancient history and we see that the Nords were probably just full of Dragonborns. But then now we get later on and we see less and less and less Dragonborns, because they're just not breeding as much. There's no real track to that lineage. So there is a genetic factor in it, but more than likely it's probably just a spiritual thing. It could be an Akatosh thing. It could be where just Akatosh is going, oh yes, I'm going to give you this incredible, incredible power, but I can see your son is kind of a dickhead and all he cares about is getting some poontang, so he's not going to get he's not getting this dragon blood. No siree. He's going to keep his mom's blood. So besides that, this has been Free 700. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to me just basically talk shit, and that's pretty much all I do. If you ever want to see more lore that's discussed like this, where I'm just chilling, just saying random crap that's just interesting, I guess, loosely to listen to, just let me know down in the comments, and I'll be sure to provide you more. Besides that, this has been Elder Scrolls lore with me. This is the very first Elder Scrolls lore I've really dived into. I've talked about it on my live streams, why it is I usually don't dive into it. But hey, this has been fun. See you guys next time.